Welcome to the very first ever live Media Careers podcast. I hope that you get the most out of it as possible in this 40 minutes with some of the experts from the BBC. So I want to start off by maybe, guys, if you can just introduce who you are and what your job title is here at the BBC.
Hi, I'm Elijah and I am a level 3 broadcast and media systems technical operator, which basically just means that I do a bit of everything when it comes to cameras, sound, lighting, that sort of thing.
You're right, I'm Luke. I'm on exactly the same as Elijah, broadcasting and media systems technical operator. I had to rehearse that in case you didn't notice. It's a massive title, but it's a massive job. I say with us, we're kind of like the Swiss Army knife of like jobs at the BBC in terms of like practical skills. So that's what we do.
Hi, my name's Kelly and I've been at the BBC for just over 10 years and I'm a technical producer for media operations, mostly doing Radio 3, Radio 4, a bit of podcasting, that sort of thing as well.
Mm-hmm. So they all work in kind of different departments, and maybe, as I've said to them earlier, they see each other in passing in the lift more so on their day-to-day. But media is a very complex industry, so I wondered, I know you said your job title, as you said, you had to learn it beforehand. What is like a day-to-day in the life of your jobs?
We basically are on like a rotation. So when we first started, I was in television downstairs and Elijah was across the way in radio. So the day in the life for me in television, because it was the longest stint I've done so far, would be you come in and you report to who's your line manager at that day, and then you'll start to be told to go to a gallery. You'll be introduced to people like producers or presenters or camera operators, anyone. I think I was lucky that my first week in this job I was on 5 a.m. start, and so it's like a big deal for me to get in. It's 5 a.m. It's still dark, the moon's still up, everyone else is in bed, and you come in and the building is like slightly asleep, but downstairs is like a little bee's hive of activity. It's loads of stuff going on, and then you just get in, you start to melt like sugar into the works. You start speaking to people, introducing yourself. I'm Luke, I'm an apprentice, can I just watch what you do and can I ask you a question? That kind of thing. It's like that everywhere you go, really. Even now, you just, if you're told you go into this room at this time, you go in, introduce yourself, I'm Luke, an apprentice, and then you just melt into the woodwork and you start to
into the scenery of it all. Elijah, what about you? You're also an apprentice. Is your day quite different?
Yeah, I would say so. So I'm currently working in 5 Live, which means that I get to just start at 9, like you all do for school. So that's quite nice. But that it changes as you're an apprentice. So the more you go along things, more responsibilities you get, the more you get to do, which is great. I was trained up on the desk on my first week working there. So I was immediately getting on programmes with people to help me and make sure that I don't make any big mistakes, obviously, but it's at the same time it's about learning that it's okay to make mistakes. And yeah, so my day now is I'll do 2 programmes in a day, maybe spend some time on Hub, which is where we help people with anything that they are having problems with, and then I go home.
What type of problems could come in the day-to-day life in live TV or radio?
If somebody wants to record a specific sound bit or extract for a show, they might need to know which room's free and who's free to help them with that. It might be if somebody's ringing into a show, for example, on 5 Live we have people calling in to do little like news packages and things like that, so it'll be finding out which line people are on, where people are going, just keeping everybody organised.
And Kelly, you told me just before this that you're actually, after this talk, going into a live environment. So I'd imagine your day-to-day changes quite a lot with being with the BBC for the past 10 years. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, it does. So, my day's different every day, but normally I am based in the studio. So today, for example, I'm working at Radio 3 in the afternoon. So we have a live programme from 1 till 4, and it's called Classical Live. And quite often we'll be going live to an orchestra somewhere in the country or something like that. Like today, it's choral evensong, so it'll be an hour of choral music coming from a church somewhere in the country. And it'll be basically, I'm sitting at the desk alongside a producer, and there'll be a presenter in the studio as well. And I'll be mixing the live programme, so making sure that it's all to broadcast level, making sure it's all sounding good for people at home, listening at home. And then I'll be getting all the lines up as well, all the guests, and if there are any guests, I'll be playing the music. And I'll be liaising with the outside broadcast at the church, making sure that all the technical side of things are all working, and then basically making sure it's all sounding good and going out on air broadcast.
So I suppose in the operations side of things, what you all see on TV, these guys are behind it all. They're the guys that are like piecing it all the jigsaw pieces together, if you can imagine. But as I said, it wasn't that long ago since you were in these seats, but it's kind of a tradition of the Media Career Podcast to go back and think about when you were younger. So can you tell me a little bit about what you were like when you were in year 9?
When I was in year 9, I was a big music student. I used to play, well, I still play, but less than I did before, the alto saxophone. So I went to band a lot of times.
That's a very cool title.
Thank you very much.
That must get you some street cred.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I was in band multiple times a week. I did a lot of choir. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet at all. But I was very enthusiastic about things. And I did a lot of like theatre stuff as well. But I always wondered, like, would I be preferring to be in things or to be making them? And I think eventually I decided that I like to make things.
Well, when I was in year 9, I kind of was into music as well, a lot, as you can tell.
What's the giveaway?
So I was studying music and product design in English. So I was building stuff with product design, building clocks, guitars, all crazy manner of things, designing things, CD album covers, redesigning the Cadbury's logo and just graphic-y things like that. And then in music, I'd go and be a musician. I was learning how to record in studios and do singing and band work. And I don't know if you lot have ever had visitors play for you in an assembly or something, but that's kind of what we were doing. And English, so I was interested in language and writing, so when it all tied together, I could play the guitar, I could build it, and I also could use my language skills to be, quite cohesive and write songs and, be quite advanced in my language, that kind of thing.
Which are some skills that you might not associate with media and that you might not know that they would come into your day-to-day.
You'd be very surprised.
What about you, Kelly? What were you like in year 9?
Well, do you know what? This is going to sound really boring, but I was exactly the same as you guys. In fact, I also played the alto saxophone.
Oh,
no way!
Yes, I did, yeah.
It's a pity you didn't bring them today. We could have a bit of a live performance.
I haven't played for a while, unfortunately, so I probably sound like a duck now, unfortunately. But yeah, no, so I loved music, exactly the same as you guys. I loved music. I played in those bands and orchestras. And basically every night I'd be rehearsing and practicing and playing scales and doing all that sort of thing. So I didn't really know, exactly the same, I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career at year 9, but I loved school and I loved music and English, exactly the same. So I knew that I was going to carry on and go and do A-levels and go to uni and that sort of thing. But I don't think I really thought about careers then, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think year 9's maybe an age where you do think that much about careers. But whenever you were in that seat, did you imagine all these years later that you would be sitting in the BBC as an apprenticeship or working for the BBC?
Not a chance.
Did you ever visualise that?
No.
Did you know about media back then? Was it a career option that you had thought about?
I hadn't really, especially in our school, it was something that you didn't do till later on, actually.
Yeah, no.
It was more of like a year 10, 11 kind of thing.
Yeah.
There was there's subjects that kind of like went into it a bit, but it was never like at the forefront of what we were doing. Or maybe it was, I don't know. I was too busy with my guitar. So.
I remember I went to an open day at a sixth form college that I was going to go to, and where I'd been for secondary school hadn't been providing media, but I just walked into the media classroom on an off chance because I was trying to find somewhere else, but I walked into the wrong place. And I looked all around and I had a nice conversation, and on that day I put down media on my options list just as like a little I could do that, and then I was told to change it to computer science because media wasn't something that the smart kids did, but turns out it is something that the smart kids do. And I think
she's right here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think it's like people don't understand how much work and how much creativity, but also how many practical skills come into taking a career in media. It's great. Yeah.
And what about you, Kelly? Could you have seen yourself here?
Probably not in year 9. No, I don't think I really knew what media was back then. Because like the same as Elijah, there wasn't any media studies in my school. But when I did sixth form, I did media studies, and then that's when I started to think, oh, maybe I want to be a journalist, or maybe I want to work in media, and that's when I started to think about it. But yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to be in year 9. I really didn't.
If it wasn't media, what else was on the list?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. Maybe it was like to be in music or something, because I just love music so much. Maybe I thought I would be in a band.
Yeah. What about you guys? If it wasn't media, where do you think you would have ended up?
I would have been in manufacturing. I think I would have seen myself building things and like woodwork or
Well, you were
carpentry.
redesigning the Cadbury's logo and everything like that from an
Well,
early
yeah,
age.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, the cons
Yeah.
are going.
No, I think it would have been building things, carpentry or construction, something
Yeah.
hands-on.
What about yourself, Elijah?
I think I would have been. I always wanted to move to France and teach English to people, so I think I would have done that.
Uber cool. Now, these guys won't let on, but when I was talking to them earlier, it's very hard to get a job in the BBC, and it can be a quite competitive programme, particularly for Luke and Elijah. Their apprenticeships, actually about 14,000 people apply every year, and there's only 11 of you that get selected.
Yeah.
So they're not letting on, but they're a pretty big deal. But tell me a little bit about what do you think made you stand out to the BBC, the people that hired you?
I don't know. Enthusiasm and I don't know. Probably enthusiasm and just that drive and to the honesty that the all my kind of emotion for what I wanted to do and expressing how much I wanted to do. It was all genuinely from the heart rather than a script or being made up. I didn't have to read off a piece of paper, I want to be an apprentice, because I was saying it because I was so enthusiastic about what I wanted to do. I just said it straight from the heart, and maybe it appealed to who was, meeting me for the first time. I don't know, maybe it was that.
Yeah.
My school, I suppose, as well, my grades and how hard I'd worked and what I'd done at that point, because they always say, your grades will follow you all your way through life. It's dead right. All the stuff all you through school will follow you, and people that employ you look back and they say, oh, you. So maybe it was to do with my schooling as well, the things I'd achieved at school and the grades I got at university and all that kind of thing.
And Luke actually hasn't mentioned this yet, but he told me off stage that Luke used to be a teacher.
I did.
Before he did this.
I did.
And was it a big change when you went from teaching to media?
It was. I taught. Are you year 9? Yeah, so I taught your year group in high school, and it was a big jump. But the same love for life and what I was interested in is still here now. The love that I gave my students when I taught them, that enthusiasm, it's not gone away. It's just changed. The vision's just changed a little bit. That's all.
Yeah. Enthusiasm plays a big part of it, and you're so right. Hard work is what gets you into this building.
Very much.
What about yourself, Elijah? What do you think made you stand out?
I had originally applied to work in Cardiff because Doctor Who's filmed in Cardiff, and that's my favourite thing ever. But that's not enough of a vision. I wanted to be working in sound, so I was really passionate about everything that I was doing. I wrote a lot about what media I like to consume, but also what I would like to do. So it was a bit of a mismatch. So but because I'd been so enthusiastic and because I'd worked really, really hard. For example, we had a challenge where we had to create and produce a short film thing, which I'm not going to give any details on because if you ever get to that point, you'll have to find it yourself. But
I'll try and pull some tips out throughout this.
Yeah. But I'd spend all of my free time from waking up in the morning to going to sleep at night working on this for 2 weeks. And I think it's just that it's the amount of time and drive and enthusiasm that from there people will be happy to guide you with what you want to do, but you just need to show that you want to be there.
Showing that you care and showing that you deserve your place. Kelly, as somebody who's worked in the BBC for the past 10 years, what do you think makes somebody stand out?
I think these guys are right. I think it is a enthusiasm and a love for it. I mean, there's a lot of people who I work with who absolutely love radio, and they don't just do radio at work, they do it outside of work. They're making podcasts at home or they're editing, that sort of thing. And I think people who love radio or even just the BBC get it, and they'll just be here because they love it, not necessarily because it's a job. It's not a job, is it? It's just you do it because you want to be here, I think. And also you've got to kind of work hard and graft, and there is some shift work, so you've got to be willing to come in at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is. So I think that's all kind of key really if you want a job at the BBC.
I think with media too, it can change in so many different ways. I mean, some of you guys might go home and watch TV. Some of you might straight away go on to TikTok. And all of that is, in a sense, media. It's, it takes up so much of our lives. Do you think, what was maybe one thing you didn't expect about working in media until you actually ended up in a building like this?
I would probably say it's not as glamorous as what it looks on TV.
Okay.
Because when you're watching TV, you think, oh, that must. I mean, it is a great place to work, but it's not that glamorous, really. It's basically it is still a job. You know,
I don't think anybody's glamorous at
No.
5 a.m.
Exactly not. But yeah, it's amazing the amount of people, all the hard work that goes in behind the scenes that you just don't see. Like you say, you know, there's a whole team of people behind the scenes, like writing scripts and like even like making coffee, which is also very important. You know, there's a whole team of people behind the scenes doing that job, and you just don't really see it when you're watching TV.
And what about for yourselves?
Yeah, I second that. Like, there's an expression like the chain is as strong as the weakest link, if you understand that. And when you come to work with like people like Kelly, it's just appreciating how much effort, commitment, and skill just goes into everything that you do, and there's nothing's really done on a half measure, is it? It's all just done. I don't know, it's just amazing you go into the gallery, which you'll see, I assume, later on. You just see how the professionals are working with each other, not even looking at each other, but they're like robotic almost. It's just the appreciation of how they can do that, and when we go and see it for really like London or Birmingham, somewhere amazing, it's just amazing to see the people power. Yeah.
I think a big part of it is as well that you guys really see the behind the scenes of how the finished product looks, and I think that's really exciting, because I think from my time of working in TV, when I worked on Blue Peter, I used to see here's one I made earlier, but I would actually go home and make the ones I made earlier. So the people who would actually go out and show you how to make a felt pencil case, that was me at home making the felt pencil case with my pencils and everything in between. What do you think is maybe some of the most exciting things you've seen in your journey with working at the BBC?
Well, very recently, we both got the chance to go work at Maida Vale, which is a studio in London, which has had so many amazing people go through it. Like the Beatles performed an album there.
Yeah.
Like so many amazing artists have been through those walls and have made amazing music. And we both got to sit in on Radio 2 piano room sessions, which is where you get in a really big artist and you give them a full orchestra. And
can you name drop any big artists?
well, when I was working there on that day, there was Kate Hudson who was in Glee.
Yeah.
And in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and in loads of other amazing things.
It's super cool.
That was her first ever live music performance.
Oh my goodness, no
and
way.
she did an amazing job.
Yeah, I think I've seen some of that on TikTok recently.
it's really good.
And you were in the behind the scenes.
Yes, I was.
That's so cool. What about you guys? Anything in particular exciting that you've seen whilst working at the BBC?
Oof, I mean, I've been here for so long now, I can't really pick one. So when I worked at 5 Live, I used to work at 5 Live years ago. We've done the Olympics, we've done the Commonwealth Games. You know, I was there when the UK won gold medals and like World Cups and that sort of thing. When you're in the studio and you have a desk that's like 30 sources on the desk and you're fading it all up and there's goals happening and it's all kind of all last minute. I'd say the same for that, all the politics and when things have been kicking off around the world and you're kind of in the desk, in the studio, making sure that everybody can hear each other and you're talking to the producers down the line and all that sort of thing. So I think just generally there's no real moment, but you're just kind of there right in the thick of it for all the sport and the news and all that kind of thing.
You're right in the thick of it when really exciting things happen on TV, but also when things go wrong and whenever breaking news comes in at last minute that you can't prepare for. I suppose your day-to-day very much changes and alters.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, we'll have what's called a running order, which will be a script that's been defined. And so the producers have been working on this script all day, and it'll be what the presenters read out on the programme. And then when some breaking news happens, that basically just gets thrown out of the window. And the presenters just have to kind of go with the flow and just have to kind of say what they see on the screen or what the producer is feeding them in their ears. And that's actually quite exciting. I mean, it's a bit scary, but it's quite exciting because you've just got to react and you've got to stay really calm and not flap and panic. You've just got to stay really calm and just kind of deal with whatever it is you're dealing with at that moment.
Even if you're not fully calm on the inside.
Exactly.
It's telling your face.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're like a swan where you're kind of gliding gracefully on top of the water, but underneath you're paddling furiously. But, you've kind of got to just get on with it. And at the end of it, when you kind of leave the studio, when you've been on air for like 4 hours or something, you kind of think, wow, we've done a really good job.
Yeah.
And we've brought the news to the people at home or the sport or whatever it is that's happened, And it's quite a nice feeling to do that.
But if you can imagine, if these guys come in at 5 a.m. and the night before they think, okay, this is exactly how my day's going to go. And then at 8 a.m., we've a new Prime Minister. And then at 8:30, somebody hasn't showed up and everything changes. And I suppose exciting, but it's also a lot of pressure. Do you think, maybe what are some of like the key skills that you think that you have now from your day-to-day work and job?
I think people think that the technical skills are important, and they are important. For instance, if something on the desk breaks or if a computer breaks, you've got to know how to fix it. But I think what is actually more important than any of that is actually the social skills. So knowing how to speak to people, knowing how to react if someone is possibly difficult, or if somebody's nervous, or if somebody's upset. You've got to be able to speak to people in a proper way in order to get the best out of them, and to also reassure them a little bit as well.
And people skills don't necessarily come from just working in media. I've spoke to Kelly beforehand, but you told me you worked in hospitality, and it's interesting how them skills are quite transferable. So from working in like a cafe or a restaurant, how literally just learning how to talk to somebody and take it if somebody's not happy with how their tea tastes, and and be able to respond to different people, or somebody grumpy on the bus. That's like what a day-to-day in media is like at the same time.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think actually, because I worked in a restaurant when I finished uni, I worked at a restaurant for like 4 years, and I used to work in Selfridges as well in the food court, and it wasn't a waste of time. I mean, I was getting those social skills and learning how to deal with members of the public, and learning how to speak to people, also learning how to maybe like micromanage as well, that kind of thing, and that's all important really. It's all skills that you can take to your job really, isn't it? Especially media.
And kind of going back to the 5 a.m. start, because I think a lot of people in front of me here would dread a 5 a.m. start. I know sometimes I would dread a 5 a.m. start because the sun's not even up when you guys are up sometimes. What is it that hooks you in about media? What makes you motivated to get up and makes you kind of enjoy your job in that way?
It's just ace. It's just great.
Is it as exciting as it looks on TV or radio, or how it sounds?
Well, as Kelly did say, it's the glam side is what you see on the screen, but the stuff that goes on behind. But I think if you learn to appreciate everything, it's easy to get up for. I even if it's 5 a.m. and I come through those doors that you came in and look up at all the floors and all the colours and the BBC, and it says on air and all these people running around with headphones on. Every morning I have this little moment of like, gosh, this is, just think, God, this is my life now, and it's ace. I think just to be part of it, then to come home and say to mum and dad, oh, guess what I did today? Last time I was on a 5 a.m., President Trump in America, when he was inaugurated, he had people in the ceremony, and one of the people that was on it, me and my brother, said what an interesting character he was. And then the next morning at 5 a.m, I was told, can you dial this number in, please, onto this Zoom call? And I dialed the number in, and the man was there. I was speaking to the man that I'd just seen in America in Donald Trump's ceremony, and I was going, oh, hello. And you get home and you say, guess who I spoke to today? Guess who I saw today? Guess what I did today? And it's just that kind of, if you love it, just, you'll never work a day in your life. So far.
Yeah.
I think.
And what about you? What motivates you?
It's little things like a really funny presenter, like a really fun song that we'll play in, just a really high energy program or environment. And I'll just be on the desk and I'll just be like very, very happy and smiley and like, despite, sometimes it can be hard to work in news. It can be hard to like have the motivation when there's very intense things going on around you, but it's just sometimes the job is to bring people joy and like a bit of like of an escape from what's going on, and that it can be really nice. We
kind of touched on it earlier, but I suppose with media as well, one thing that you don't realise is that you don't always, like when we're talking about the news, you might seem like you need to know everything that's going on in the news, like 1 minute from Donald Trump and the next minute into sport, but actually that's not always the case. For example, like I work in journalism on a day-to-day basis. When I got my first GCSE result, I looked at the page and I was like, there's no result on that. And then I realised I got a U. But it just shows you that like you don't actually, that was biology by the way, but it just shows you that you don't need to know everything to necessarily find your place in media. You guys are still like early on in your careers, and I know nobody likes the 10-year, question, but where do you see yourself moving on in media? Where would you like to see yourself? What's the career aspirations?
I would just love to be doing things like Glastonbury, and being in the thick of it.
In the music scene.
Right, in the music scene,
yes,
Glastonbury.
I can see that.
Just doing things that will be great stories one day. For me personally, but I think something creative, something exciting and dynamic, and Yeah.
Nice
that's
stories to bring home to your nan. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's all about bragging rights, you know.
Yeah, it's
Kidding.
bragging rights. It's all part of it. And what about you, Kelly? Where do you see yourself? What would you like? Where would you like to end up?
Yeah, I think the best thing about working at the BBC for me is that there's no, you can kind of move to the side. So that you don't necessarily have to, like in a job, you have to feel like you have to keep on going up and up and up in your career. Like I have no aspirations to be a manager or anything like that. So I think I'm quite happy where I am, but possibly maybe get more experience, like Luke says, in maybe like more like outside broadcasts, like recording live music, recording more podcasts, doing more editing, that kind of thing. And it's good actually because I'm on a what's called a attachment. So I was working at 5 Live and now I'm working with Radio 3 and Radio 4. So you can kind of move around in the BBC and do other jobs. So I think I'll probably carry on and do that really.
Yeah. Elijah, what about you?
Just doing something fun, something musical, something cool.
Something cool.
Yeah.
It's all about cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, is there any piece of advice finally that you would give to the guys in front of us today in terms of career advice and working in media?
Work hard.
That's a very teacher answer, isn't it?
Well, it's true.
Hard work pays off.
Just work hard and treat your teachers well, because they'll at the end of the day, when I was a teacher, the person who wrote my reference to come here was my teacher. And if I hadn't have been a good student back when I was in high school, they probably would never have written me such a lovely reference that then got me into this position.
Good reference
So,
means everything.
Yeah, work hard, love everything. There's always, there's that kind of stuff, just love it, because it'll lead you to places like this. I think that's what we think when we walk in. You just think, oh, it paid off. It's hard to work hard, by nature, but when you are in our position, you look at what we do, you just think, oh, it all paid. It's like a big sigh of relief. Oh, it all paid off. Staying late after school, being nice to the teacher, looking after your friends, doing that assignment to your best, all that, get your plan assigned, all pays off, and here we are. So
yeah, I felt like that with, for example, when we had to make something to get the job. I'd done my A-level in media studies, and for that you could have either made a magazine or you could have done a short film, and I decided to do a short film because it was more fun, because I could learn camera skills, because I could learn editing skills for all of that. I think it's just little projects that you take on the side. Always apply yourself to everything. Be accepting when you get no's from things, but just try and be creative and enthusiastic.
Kelly, what about you?
I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to say the opposite. Well, not quite the opposite.
Stir the tea.
No, I think it's really good to focus on academia and get good results and all that kind of thing. That is important. But as we were talking about before with the soft skills and learning how to, talk to people, I think basically just try and be kind and try and be nice. That's actually really important, because if you're working in a high pressure environment and if you're stressed and nobody wants to see you stressed. So I think actually try to kind of manage yourself, your stress levels. Try and be nice and kind to people, because people will remember you if you're nice to them, and they will probably then they will probably ask you back.
Yeah.
In a job.
There's things that, like when I first started working with Kelly, I mean, you were a total stranger and I was a stranger to you, and I came in, and the first thing like I probably did with Kelly was say, "Would you like a cup of tea?"
That helps.
And I made Kelly a cup of tea because she would have been busy, and your brain would have been just on 9 different things at once, and I was and new, and I couldn't really get involved, but I could so I would say, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And I do it everywhere I go. There's people to say, "Can I make you a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh, would you?" And then they remember you, and then you get it's that soft people skills, just a cup of tea, or how was your morning, or did you get in okay, just stuff like that goes a long way, really does.
Yeah, people skills are very much at the heart of media, I think, and that can be as simple as just being like really kind and polite, and that can get you a lot further sometimes than you in biology, for example. But as I said, these guys they're being very humble right now, but they were filtered through hundreds of thousands of people to be on this stage. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, and if we could just give them a bit of a round of applause for being so open with us as well, really, really appreciate it.